Hey homebrewers, so this is an Egyptian Spidey mouse. Ah, Spidey mouse! Check him out. He's on loan, so just letting you know. Woo! Put him back. Come on, dude. But look at this, he's awesome. And he's all spiny. Hey. Come on. Hello homebrewers, and welcome to Homebrew Wild and Cheap. So it is a very special edition of Homebrew Wild and Cheap because this is the Christmas edition of Homebrew Wild and Cheap. So I would like to wish all of my subscribers and viewers that tune in and watch my videos very Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and yeah, it is the season to get trolleyed. So what better way than to make some alcohol? So I was chatting to a viewer called Jeff Monahan. I'm sorry if I get it wrong, but you know, dyslexia, it's terrible. So, and he was talking about maxing out the yeast because no one really does that for extra sweetness and strength and things. So I've changed my original video, which I was going to do, which was another kind of will it ferment, and I'm going to mix them both together. So we are going to be fermenting this, which is blackcurrant high juice squash. It has, you know, people have fermented squash before, but this is, well, this is quite a nice one. I've done a few squash brews in my time, and I can tell you the cheap, nasty squash, it does ferment, but it's not that nice. Let's be realistic, it's not that nice. So I got myself a 50% fruit concentrate, and I do like blackcurrant. So we're going to make a blackcurrant. I suppose sherry would be the right word for it, since this is going to be pretty damn strong. So I suppose we should get started. Set up. But I just want to talk about the juice, because it's all about the juice in this video. So as you know, squash is usually concentrated with added flavors and stuff. This is high juice. The difference is it contains a lot higher concentration of actual fruit juice. Now, again, you can just change for the cheaper juice. You're going to get a cheaper product. Don't expect fantastic things for the more cheaper squash. Like, I don't know, a value squash. You know, the ones you buy in the big bulk. They're not going to be particularly tasty by the end of it. You are going to get an orange flavored alcoholic beverage, but it's not going to be fantastic. So we are going to make an awesome wine. Oh yeah, it's an awesome high alcohol wine, mainly because fusion. We are fusing a request that I had for doing some high alcohol wines, mainly to show about maxing yeast. So I thought I'd put it together and it's going to be pretty fun. So in this is a pretty simple thing. I got this from Aldi and it cost me, I think it was like £1. Terrible, I can't remember. But it was no more than like £2, but I believe this was £1 for 1 litre of not low sugar, it's just standard sugar stuff with stuff and things. Now it is just a standard 1 litre bottle of high juice. Another one you can use is Ribena. This is pretty much the same thing, but it's unbranded, and yeah, it's a high fruit content squash. Very dark, very lovely. You can hold it up to the light. It is pretty awesome. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this to the fermenting test. Now, it already contains 40 grams of sugar. So there's 1 litre of this, so that is 400 grams of sugar that this already has in it per, you know, per concentrated 100 mils. So that's pretty handy to know, and the ratio is pretty awesome. Because we're making a actual 1 gallon batch, UK 1 gallon, which is 4.5 litres, we're going to be, funny enough, it's pretty much a 1:4 ratio, which is exactly as it says on the instructions, which is right here. So 1 part juice to 4 parts water. Now I prefer mine a bit stronger if I'm drinking squash, but for this wine we're going to keep it nice and simple and go for the recommended dosage. Now the extra 500 ml is going to be taken up with sugar. Now there is 1 kilo of sugar here, Lovely, lovely. This was 45p, so this experiment is basically under £2 to make a gallon. So for all you cheap homebrewers out there, this could be one that you're going to love. So we are going to be adding tannin into it, mainly because we're making a wine and it's going to be high alcohol, and I want it to age. So I'm going to be using 4 tea bags, quite high in tea bags, but it's going to be pretty good. So because this contains, just like in the Coca-Cola, sodium metabisulfate and potassium sorbate, which are the ingredients that go into a stabilizing solution that homebrewers use for stabilizing their wines once it's finished. So we've got to boil this off. So I got my pan, lovely, lovely, and I got my kettle. Now I've filled it with 1.6 litres of boiling water, mainly because we can cool it down a lot quicker with less water. This will boil slightly off, but you know, that's fine. We're going to be needing yeast nutrient, lovely yeast nutrient. Going to be needing a bit more than the standard amount because we are going to really put the yeast to the test. And of course, you know, we're going to need our demijohn, which is in the back, sterilizing. I haven't used it in a while, so it's going to need a good scrub. I added extra bleach because I know I'm OCD with my bleach. So, step 1 in this process, oh, it smells good, is just to pour the whole litre into a pan. Very slightly left over now. Then I'm going to add in basically my 1.6 litres of water. Now the water content isn't really necessary as long as you keep it under the amount that goes in the demijohn. So I'm adding in 1.6, it's going to boil off around maybe 200 ml, maybe, somewhere around that. I'm just being cautious. So now we put it on to boil, yeah it's on, put it on to boil on a good hot rolling boil for 20 odd minutes, and what this is going to do is going to drive off all of the preservatives and also, you know, sterilize it because I haven't sterilized the pan. And I'm going to chuck in 4 tea bags which are going to basically stew in there and add the tannins. Tea bags. Now these are the Thai food tea bags that I've used in all of my videos, mainly because no one drinks tea. I just like it quite a lot, but I like it as a tannin substitute in homebrew because it's very easy to get the, you know, the packaged tannin. It's very easy to put too much in and have a wine that you can't drink for 5 years. Personal experience knows that. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And they're just going to do their job, and we're going to be back in about 20 odd minutes once this gets to the boil. Fortunately I boiled it this time, and yeah, we'll move on to the next step. Right, so it's been 20 minutes now and it's been at a good rolling boil, so I get to turn it off now. So all the preservatives are now driven off. So I'm going to take my sugar, which is a cheeky kilo of sugar. So this is in total 1.4 kilos of sugar, which is quite a lot of sugar, if I'm going to be honest. Now you can add it in before the boil, but you got to stir it in, and then when you boiling it, you gotta kind of keep checking back and keep stirring it to make sure that the sugar doesn't caramelize and burn at the bottom of the pan. It's a step that you don't have to do. I mean, I've been playing with the mouse, made myself a cup of coffee, and just generally messed about. So 20 minutes boiling, you can easily do something in 20 minutes, or many things. So in goes my kilo of sugar. Looking good. So I can just throw that in my huge wrappage pile. Christmas wrapping. So, and because it's just off the boil, it is very easy to dissolve the sugar in. Now I'm going to leave the tea bags in here until it's nice and cool. That way we get as much tannin as we can out of it. Because, you know, this is a sherry-like wine. In theory. So I did notice in the boil that it has natural flavourings in there. Whatever they are, I think they're actually artificial flavourings, but called natural flavourings, because that's what they are. So it doesn't smell quite as berry-ish. It's kind of drove off the kind of synthetic berry smell and taste that you get with squashes, which is handy. So this won't be as strong, but hopefully this will still ferment quite nicely. So this is now all lovely, lovely. I believe all the sugar has dissolved in. So I put some cold water in the fridge to keep it cold and make it colder. And I'm just adding in another litre. And this is just going to aid in the cooling down. So it just makes it a bit easier for us. So now you get to stir it a bit. You can even go as far as to take a little bit and taste it. Whoa! It is, it's quite nice actually. Considering it's only halfway diluted, I like mine quite strong. This has a tannin-y aftertaste of tea, funny that, and a really nice berry taste. It doesn't taste synthetic, it actually tastes like real blackcurrant juice, which is, that's good. It means that we are on to a winner, maybe. So basically I'm just going to let the tea bags stew in here until it goes nice and cool. So I'm going to be back, yeah, in about an hour. So I'll see you in an hour. We are back after an hour. Yep, it is an hour as well. Check that. So this is now cooled down. I can hold it. It's still pretty warm, but again, it's not so hot that you can't hold it in your hands, as you can see. So what we're going to do is we're going to put it in our demijohn. This is a nice glass one. Shiny. But again, you can use the 5-litre water containers that you can pick up in the supermarket. Works exactly the same, but this is a very slightly smaller size. So just take that into account. So, as usual, I have put my funnel somewhere. So I am going to go risque and use this slightly, bit of thread. I'm going to use this slightly bent bit of the pan. So hopefully this is going to go in relatively easy. Famous last words. Aha! Tea bags. Now fortunately I've just rinsed everything out, so my hands have been sterilised as well, so I feel pretty good. Going to give it a swirl. That's 3, and there's 4. So if you're not using a funnel, take the tea bags out, otherwise it just goes everywhere. So let's try this again. I think for me that was pretty damn good. So I got a little bit of wastage in the, about 10, maybe 20 mil. Tastes really good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to top this up, then we're going to take a measurement using a hydrometer, which is sterilising over there. Some water. That's pretty good. Just give it a little more, why not? That is about right. So I'm just going to clean off my hydrometer and give this a shake, and we're going to see what percentage it is. So there's my hydrometer. There you are. Right, so I have topped this up to the top. I've checked it with the hydrometer. It is 18%. Now that is pretty high. This is the uttermost limits that you can use with the yeast before starting to get into, I believe it's this one, which is desserts and high alcohol yeast. So this is going to be, it's going to be a bit of a strain for the yeast. The yeast I've chosen for this is my all-purpose red. Now this is because this should really complement the blackcurrant. That's the word I'm looking for. The blackcurrant and the tannins, and this should make this wine, if it's going to come out nice, this is the best chance that I have. If you don't have all-purpose wine yeast and you just have a universal yeast, use that. It will be pretty much the same, but you're not going to get the berry flavours and, you know, that you would using this yeast as the other one. The other one is just a clean tasting yeast. I was talking to Jeff and he was suggesting using a Larvin EV1118. That is a sparkling slash cider yeast. They can't call it champagne yeast anymore because of copyright with champagne producers, but it's basically the same as using a cider yeast or a sparkly champagne yeast. So this will do exactly the same. You'll get slightly different variances in the flavors because of the yeast. Different yeasts have different properties. So I'm going to be adding in yeast nutrient. The directions say use 1 teaspoon per gallon. Now because we are maxing this yeast to its utter limits before it becomes toxic to the yeast, I'm going to be using 2. Now, 2. Finger funnel. There's 1. And there is 2. Now I'm using this because excess nutrients is going to help the yeast handle the higher alcohol percentage. So this should ferment dry, or all but dry. So this is going to be one that I'm actually going to have to take a hydrometer reading after, just to make sure. So I'm going to swirl this all up, because I can, using the good old hand. Yummy! And yeah, gonna get some wine yeast. I can't get the wine yeast. God damn it. There we go, I've opened it. I'm in there, I've got it. And I'm just gonna sprinkle a bit in. Now, go on and add a bit more. It's not 1/5 of a packet, but it will do, it's close enough. So as you can see, I don't use the whole packet. You don't need to, yeast does propagate. It will be a bit slower than using the recommended 1/5 of a packet, but I know everything is sterile, I know everything is good, and yeah. Like I said, this is going to last a lot longer, and you store it in the fridge, sealed up, so the air and the moisture cannot get to it. And I use, funny enough, some clamps, because that's what I use. So I'm just going to finish rinsing off my top, and I'll be right back. So I now have everything ready to go, so I'm just going to put in my airlock. Now I have sterilized this and washed it out because it was full of gack from something else I was doing. But again, I can fill this with just plain water, just like so. Just a little bit in the bottom, and you can just stick the lid on. It doesn't need to be filled all the way to the top. Because this is very slightly warm still, it's going to aid in getting the yeast going. But as this cools down, there'll be a slight vacuum. So if you put too much water in, it will suck up and go in. You don't want that. So I'm going to label this up off camera, but this is part 1 of the blackberry squash wine, which is 18%, and it is going to be extremely powerful. So let's hope this is extremely nice. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you for part 2 and the next video. So happy Christmas, guys, and I'll catch you in the new year.